Hey everyone. The few of you that are already subscribed might be expecting a review this week. Don't worry, the reviews will be coming in full swing right on schedule next month. I just wanted to take the time to do a bit of a channel breakdown, as well as a general editorial on the philosophy and goals behind this endeavor. I plan to occasionally do things like this, as well as editorials on specific gaming-related subjects every once in a while. To start, as I've said before, you can call me Sweet Tea. Why? Because I don't have a better name that makes me sound more like a dork. I came up with that one on the spot while writing the script for the first review, and thought it was just stupid enough to use. I'm an artist first and foremost. My whole entire life is dedicated to art. Whether it's game design theory, illustration, music, writing, etc., I just have an intense infatuation with the creative things in life, and that as a whole drives me as a person. I just love to learn, and art seems to provide the widest angle on things to gain knowledge and wisdom from. You might have seen the title cards, which are all drawn by me, as well as the structures being built in the horribly boring Minecraft footage in front of you. I also edit the videos and write the scripts entirely myself. If I had the equipment, I'd do the music too. I just like creating things. So that's a very, very thin slice of who your host is. As for the channel, the goal of Second Opinion is simple. I want to create honest, fair, critical discussion about all aspects of game design. I believe that there are objective qualities that can be measured in all forms of art. Whether one enjoys a piece of art is up to them and them alone. But whether a piece of art functions as intended is very much a static quality that can be gauged. As an example, if one illustrator can't consistently replicate the anatomy of a character from a multitude of angles while another can, the latter illustrator is objectively better at anatomy and perspective within that context. Style is independent from technical quality. That's the perspective this channel comes from. I want to foster intelligent conversation about why something in a game does or doesn't serve the overall goal the developers set out to meet. I want people to be able to separate their personal enjoyment or disdain for a game from the functionality of it. I want people to question the reasons why they hold their opinions, just as I critically assess my own perspective each and every day. I want people to learn to respect differing opinions through understanding the ideas of others. I want people to be able to come to agreement on the hard facts without letting their subjective feelings get in the way and start arguments. This isn't about devaluing opinions, but rather giving our opinions the weight they deserve by providing critical thought and facts that can back them up. This isn't something that can be done by only me, and I'm by no means pretending that that's the intention behind my words. It isn't. Through exploring games and my own preferences and experiences with them in an open forum, I hope to contribute to this greater understanding, just as I hope each and every one of you will contribute as well. There are obviously several other channels already dedicated to this sort of thing, so what I'm doing is by no means new. But I hope you might at least find what Second Opinion has to offer to be useful. For me, I believe that judging the quality of a game in this way isn't about judging the price point or the fact that it does or doesn't have a feature. While Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes may not have been worth it to some of us at the price point it started at, I don't believe that should affect the objective quality of the game. That would imply that the game itself somehow gets more artistic or better written or just generally more enjoyable as the price goes down, even though the game and its price are independent factors. It's the same game regardless. The idea of the price changing the quality of the game just sounds ludicrous to me. I'm not trying to devalue the idea that the game might not be worth it to those who think the price is too high, but it's important that the opposite perspective isn't devalued either. If someone else thinks the game is worth the high price, that idea is no less valuable. Instead of claiming one perspective or another is wrong, we should be asking why we believe what we do in the first place. You know, a game isn't inherently better because it's longer. A game isn't inherently worse because it includes elements for casual players. A game isn't automatically shallow because it's really linear. Critical review is about looking at how these elements exist in the context of the game they're placed within, and what implications all of these factors may or may not have on the final product. One has to be able to understand the perspective of multiple people playing the game, from noobs to veterans. As such, critical review can quickly become very complicated. I don't subscribe to the old adage that someone can be too critical of a product. I believe what most people would call being too critical is usually actually the act of not being critical enough. Being critical means you look at things at face value and through the lens of as many perspectives as you can. It means laying your opinion aside for a second and just being honest about the subject at hand. If you claim that Final Fantasy X is too linear because you like freedom and choices in your games, you might be called overly critical. But in reality, you're not really being critical at all. you first have to understand how linearity affects the game. It's not about how it affects you personally. Does the linearity complement the other choices the designers made, or does it inhibit the functionality of something? We know that linearity is often used to tell a more cohesive narrative, so the question shouldn't be, do I like linearity, but rather, does the linearity of this game serve to strengthen the narrative goals? A frame rate of 30 frames per second is objectively worse for Control than a frame rate of 60 frames per second. A game being more linear than another is not. The truth behind the quality of said linearity comes down to how it affects everything around it, not whether it exists or not. Let me iterate on an example that I touched upon in an earlier review. I've had quite a few people throughout the years talk about how the old Sonic the Hedgehog games were poorly designed because, while they were allegedly supposed to be about speed, many stages greatly limited the speeds the player could achieve. Contrary to popular belief though, 2D Sonic gameplay was never really about speed. The marketing and the character were shown that way for sure, but that was more of a way to poke fun at Nintendo. 2D Sonic gameplay was all about playing with physics and momentum. The systems in those games were incredibly deep for the time, and they were instrumental in utilizing curved environmental pieces. I'm sure the team originally tried to design Sonic to be an extremely fast game throughout, but quickly realized the obvious. Most people just can't keep up when a game gets too fast, so they had a choice: dumb the gameplay down to keep the speed, or swap the focus to something else. They chose the latter because it was the decision that led them to a longer lasting game with more depth. If the 2D Sonic games were really about speed, then why did they program in a speed cap? If they were really about speed, why did the very second stage in the entire series, among many others throughout, slow the gameplay down considerably? The numbers just don't add up. So if it's clear that the game is designed with something else at the core, why critique it as if speed should be the be-all end-all factor? Would you look poorly towards Super Mario Bros. Because it's a game about an Italian plumber that doesn't actually include any gameplay about plumbing in Italy? Of course not. Things get even more complex when you consider that products can sometimes be better at one thing than another. Sonic 06 may be a poorly designed 3D platformer, but there are facts that back up the idea that it could be a fantastic tool for teaching the common pitfalls of game design. Listen, I'm not going to pretend there's an objective answer to everything, because there isn't. But the more of them we can find together, and the more we can debate and come to agreement rather than arguing, the more we can understand this medium we love so much, and the more we can cooperate and understand the opinions of those around us. The world of games is in desperate need of understanding, honesty, and a bit of critical thinking right now. I invite you to join me in spreading these ideals for the better of everyone. So, Second Opinion as a channel is primarily a game review channel, with a side of editorial for now. It may grow as time goes on, and indeed I hope it does, but for now I want to try and keep things simple until I can get used to it all. Thanks for your time, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the next review.